So way back in the 19th century, China's Qing dynasty, they made this huge gamble. I mean, a massive one. They sent 120 of their absolute brightest young boys all the way to America. It was this totally unprecedented experiment, a real test of trust. And the whole point was to save their empire. But, and this is the kicker, it was all built on a question that, honestly, we're still wrestling with today.
I mean, that sentiment, which was reported just a few years back, really puts the whole challenge in the spotlight. It boils down to this. When we open our doors for education, what are we really inviting in? Is it opportunity, or is it a threat? And you know what? This tension? It's not new at all. In fact, it's a story that goes back nearly 150 years.
So how did we even get here? Well, that's what we're going to break down. First, we'll dig into the history of this suspicion. Then we'll meet China's first 100. These are the kids at the very center of this whole experiment, and we'll see how their journey to a brand new world just completely transformed them. After that, we'll look at why it all fell apart, why the dream just unraveled, leading to this sudden recall. And finally, we'll uncover the mission's incredible and kind of surprising legacy.
So first up, we've got to set the scene. To really get what these boys were walking into, you have to understand the political climate at the time. And let's just say the welcome out wasn't exactly rolled out for everyone.
Okay, so check this out, because the parallels here are pretty wild. Back in the 1870s, you had this intense economic fear of Chinese laborers, which led to nasty slogans like, "The Chinese must go," and eventually the Chinese Exclusion Act. Fast forward to today, sure, the buzzwords have changed to things like intellectual property and espionage, but the core anxieties? They're almost identical. Economic worries and national security concerns. It was right into the middle of that simmering tension that this whole mission was launched.
And yet, against this backdrop of, all this suspicion, something really radical started brewing in China.
120. That's the number. 120 teenage boys, and get this, somewhere as young as 12, were handpicked for a mission that wasn't just going to define their own lives. It was meant to shape the entire future of their country.
And let's be super clear here. This was not your average study abroad program. Oh no. This was a state-sponsored, high-stakes gamble. The Qing dynasty was falling behind the West, and they knew it. These boys, they were supposed to be the answer. The idea was to create a whole generation of leaders who'd come back with all this Western know-how, to build railroads, beef up the military, save the empire.
So the plan seems simple enough, right? The boys would learn from America. But what nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming was just how quickly they'd start to feel like they were of America.
And man, did they transform. You can see it right here. These kids were placed with American host families all over New England. And almost overnight, they swapped their traditional silk robes for Western suits, they cut off their queues, that long braided hairstyle, and they even started their own baseball team, called the Orientals, who, by the way, apparently crushed their local rivals. It's so clear they weren't just soaking up academics. They were diving headfirst into a whole new way of life.
And along the way, they formed these really deep personal connections. I mean, just look at this note. It's from a student, Deng Shikong, written only 5 months after he got there. It shows that simple human friendship that was growing, completely separate from the big geopolitical goals of the mission. The English is a little broken, sure, but the feeling behind it, it's perfectly clear.
But here's the tragic irony. This incredible success story, this amazing ability to adapt and fit in, that was the very thing that was going to bring the whole project crashing down.
So, this question started bubbling up, and it really began to haunt the officials back in China. Were these boys becoming, too American? I mean, they'd sent them over to become future Chinese engineers and admirals. But were they about to get back a bunch of Americanized Christians who'd totally forgotten their Confucian duties? And this is where the conflict really exploded. The new commissioner, sent to oversee them, a guy named Wu Zidang, was absolutely horrified. He sent reports back saying the boys weren't respectful anymore. They were ditching their Chinese studies, and, the worst sin of all, they were converting to Christianity. But on the other side, you had Young Wing, the guy who dreamed up the whole mission in the first place. He saw all this as a huge success. So the entire mission got caught in this massive tug-of-war between two worldviews that just could not coexist.
Well, the conservative side won out. In the end, when it finally came, it was fast, and it was brutal. And just like that, it was over. The plug was pulled. It didn't matter that American educators were pleading with them to reconsider, or that even former President Ulysses S. Grant tried to intervene. The Qing court ordered every single student home. Their 15-year mission was over, just like that. And they didn't come back as heroes. They came back in what was seen as total disgrace.
So on paper, the experiment was a complete failure. But, as we're about to see, history had a very, very different story to tell.
Just look at this list. These guys were far from failures. These disgraced students came back and became the literal architects of modern China. Zhang Tianyo, who had been at Yale studying engineering, he became the father of China's railroads. Tang Shai, he became the first premier of the Republic of China. You had others who went on to lead the Navy, the Foreign Ministry, entire universities. They were the exact modernizers the mission was designed to create in the first place.
And that's the powerful, kind of mind-bending irony at the heart of this whole story. The very thing that got the mission canceled, their Americanization, was precisely what gave them the skills, the perspective, and the confidence to go home and completely change their country. You could say the mission basically failed its way into becoming a massive success.
And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? The story of China's first 100 students is history for sure, but it leaves us with a question that feels more relevant today than ever. When we bring different cultures together for education, who is actually changing whom? And maybe more importantly, is it possible to harness the incredible power of an open mind without giving up control? It's a tough one.